Hey guys, this is AJ from Age's Adventures, and happy Marvel Monday. Today's fanfic will be what if Hela killed Thor and Loki. So let's get going. The air was thick with tension as Hela, the goddess of death, stood before her two half-brothers, Thor and Loki. She had just emerged victorious in a fierce battle with the Asgardian warriors. Now she turned her attention to her family. Thor stepped forward, Mjolnir in hand. Hela, we can't allow you to continue down this path. You must surrender and face judgment for your crimes. Hela laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Judgment. I am the judge, and I have already passed sentence on Asgard. Loki tried to step forward to reason with Hela, but Thor held him back. We cannot reason with her brother. We must fight. And so the battle began, lightning crackling in the air as Thor and Hela clashed. Loki hung back, watching and waiting for his moment to strike. But Hela was too powerful. She dodged Thor's attacks with ease, and soon he was panting, his strength waning. "Loki, help me," he cried out. But before Loki could act, Hela turned her attention to him. "You are a tricky one, aren't you?" she said, a wicked grin on her face. But tricks won't save you now." She lunged at Loki, her sword flashing in the sunlight. Loki tried to dodge, but he wasn't fast enough. Hela's blade sliced through his chest, and he fell to the ground, gasping for breath. Thor let out a roar of rage and charged at Hela, but she was too quick. She sidestepped his attack and plunged her sword into his chest. Thor's eyes widened in shock as he looked down at the blade protruding from his body. Hela twisted the sword, relishing in Thor's pain. "You should have known better than to challenge me," she said, her voice low and menacing. Thor's eyes grew dim, and as his body went limp, he fell to the ground beside Loki, blood pooling around them both. Hela stood over the bodies of her half-brothers, a triumphant smile on her face. "Finally," she said, "Asgard is mine." Would Valkyrie, Hulk, and the remaining Asgardians go to Earth? As Hela stood victorious over the fallen bodies of Thor and Loki, the remaining Asgardians, led by Valkyrie and the Hulk, knew they had to act quickly. They had to get off Asgard and find a new home, far away from Hela's wrath. Valkyrie turned to the Hulk. "We need to find a way off this planet. Do you have any ideas?" The Hulk scratched his head. "Hulk, not sure, but maybe Thor's magic hammer can help." Valkyrie nodded. "Good idea. Let's go see if we can find it." As they searched for Mjolnir, Valkyrie rallied the Asgardians. "We have to leave this planet and find a new home," she said. "We cannot stay here and face Hela's wrath." The Asgardians were hesitant at first, but Valkyrie's leadership and determination inspired them. They began to gather what supplies they could and prepare for their journey. Finally, the Hulk found Mjolnir hidden away in a secret chamber. He held it up triumphantly. "Hulk found hammer!" Valkyrie smiled. "Great job, Hulk. Now let's get off this planet." They gathered the remaining Asgardians and made their way to the Bifrost. the bridge that could transport them to other realms. But as they approached, they saw Hela waiting for them. "You think you can escape me?" she sneered. "Think again." Valkyrie stood firm, her sword at the ready. "We won't let you stop us," she said. Hela charged at them, her sword slashing through the air, but Valkyrie and the Hulk were a formidable team. They fought back, while using their strength and skill to keep Hela at bay. Finally, they managed to get past Hela and onto the Bifrost. Valkyrie and the Hulk used Mjolnir to activate the bridge, and soon they were hurling through space, leaving Asgard and Hela behind. As they traveled, Valkyrie spoke to the remaining Asgardians. "We will go to Earth. It's not perfect, but it's a safe haven for us. We can rebuild there, and we can honor Thor and Loki's memory." The Asgardians nodded, grateful for Valkyrie's leadership. They knew that their journey would be long and difficult, but they were determined to survive and thrive on their new home. Would Hulk turn back to Bruce and go with Valkyrie to tell the Avengers about Thor and Loki's deaths? As Valkyrie and the remaining Asgardians traveled through space towards Earth, the Hulk struggled with his conflicting emotions. On the one hand, he felt the rage and anger that had always defined him, but on the other hand, he felt the sadness and grief of losing his friend and fellow Avenger, Thor. As they approached Earth, Valkyrie turned to the Hulk. "We need to tell the Avengers what happened," she said. "They need to know about Thor and Loki's deaths." The Hulk hesitated. "Hulk not know if Hulk can face them," he said. "Hulk not know if Hulk can face Bruce." Valkyrie put a hand on his shoulder. "I understand," she said, "but we need to do this. For Thor, for Loki, for all of Asgard." The Hulk nodded reluctantly, and they made their way to the Avengers' headquarters. As they entered, they were met by Captain America and Iron Man. "What happened?" Captain America asked, his brow furrowed. Valkyrie took a deep breath. "Hela attacked Asgard," she said. "She killed Thor and Loki." Iron Man's face paled. "Oh my God," he said. "We have to do something." The Hulk shifted comfortably. "Hulk sorry," he said. "Hulk not know if Hulk can help." Captain America put a hand on Hulk's shoulder. "We understand," he said, "but we need to come together and stop Hela. For Thor, for Loki, for all of us." The Hulk nodded, and slowly he felt his anger fading away. He felt himself transforming back into Bruce Banner. The man he had been before the gamma radiation had turned him into the Hulk. Bruce looked up at Valkyrie and the Avengers. "I'm in," he said. "Let's stop Hela." Would Valkyrie join the Avengers? As the Avengers and Valkyrie worked together to come up with a plan to stop Hela, they quickly realized that they needed all the help they could get. Valkyrie proved herself to be a fierce warrior, and her experience as a former member of the Valkyrior made her a valuable addition to their team. Iron Man turned to Valkyrie. We could use someone like you on the team," he said. "Would you consider joining the Avengers?" Valkyrie hesitated. "I appreciate the offer," she said, "but my duty is to the Asgardians. I need to make sure they are safe and taken care of." Captain America nodded. "We understand," he said, "but know that we are here to help you in any way we can." Valkyrie smiled. "Thank you," she said. "I may not be a member of the Avengers, but I will always be an ally to those who fight for justice and the greater good." As the Avengers and Valkyrie worked together to take down Hela and her minions, they found themselves growing closer. They fought side by side, sharing battle strategies and learning from each other's strengths. In the end, It was their combined efforts that allowed them to defeat Hela and save the universe from her wrath. As they celebrated their victory, the Avengers and Valkyrie knew that they had formed a powerful bond that would last a lifetime. While Valkyrie may not have officially joined the Avengers, she had become an integral part in their team, and they knew that they could always count on her in times of need. Would Thanos team up with Hela to stop the Avengers and snap away half of the universe? It is possible that Thanos could have teamed up with Hela to stop the Avengers and snap away half of the universe, given their shared goals for death and destruction. However, it is important to note that this scenario is purely hypothetical and not based on any canon Avengers statements. Assuming that Thanos did team up with Hela, their alliance would be a formidable force to reckon with. As they prepared to face the Avengers, Thanos and Hela stood side by side, their eyes fixed on their opponents. "You have no chance against us," Hela said, her voice dripping with venom. Captain America stepped forward, his shield at the ready. "We won't let you destroy the universe," he said. Thanos raised his hand, and the Infinity Gauntlet glinted ominously. "You cannot stop what is inevitable," he said. "The universe must be balanced." As the Avengers and their allies engaged in a fierce battle against Thanos and Hela, it quickly became clear that their combined powers were too much to handle. Thanos used the power of the Infinity Stones to devastating effect, while Hela's mastery of death and destruction left a trail of devastation in her wake. Despite their valiant efforts, the Avengers were ultimately unable to stop Thanos and Hela from carrying out their plan. As the snap rang out across the universe, half of all living beings were wiped from existence, leaving the survivors reeling in shock and grief. In the aftermath of the snap, the Avengers vowed to continue the fight against Thanos and Hela, knowing that they could not let them win. Though the odds were against them, they knew they had to stand strong and fight for the universe's survival. Would Peter and the Guardians of the Galaxy be dusted? It is possible that Peter and the Guardians of the Galaxy could have been dusted in this scenario, as half of all living beings were wiped from existence by the snap. Here's a possible description of what could have happened. As the snap echoed across the universe, Peter and the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. They watched in horror as their friends and allies began to turn to dust before their eyes, disappearing into nothingness. "Drax, no!" Gamora cried out as she saw the burly warrior start to crumble away. Peter felt a wave of panic wash over him as he realized what was happening. "We have to do something," he yelled. But it was too late. One by one, the Guardians began to disappear, leaving Peter standing alone in the empty space. "No, no, no," he muttered to himself, tears streaming down his face. "This can't be happening." As Peter looked around, he saw that the entire universe had been plunged into chaos. People and creatures were vanishing left and right, leaving the galaxy a shadow of its former self. Peter knew that he had to find a way to bring his friends back, no matter what it took. He would do whatever it took to reverse the snap and restore the universe to its rightful state, even if it meant sacrificing everything he held dear. Would Wanda, T'Challa, Bucky, and Sam be dusted? It is possible that Wanda, T'Challa, Bucky, and Sam could have been dusted in this scenario, as half of all living beings were wiped from existence by the snap. Here's a possible description of what could have happened. As the snap reverberated through the universe, Wanda, T'Challa, Bucky, and Sam felt a sudden sense of terror grip them. They watched in disbelief as people around them started to disappear, turning to dust in the blink of an eye. "No, this can't be happening," Wanda cried out, clutching onto Vision's arm. T'Challa felt a surge of sadness and loss as he watched his people vanish to nothingness. "We have to find a way to stop this," he said, his voice urgent, but it was too late. In a matter of seconds, half of all living beings had been wiped out, leaving the survivors reeling in shock and disbelief. Bucky turned to Sam, his eyes wide with horror. "What do we do now?" he asked. Sam shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," he said, "but we can't give up. We have to keep fighting, no matter what." As the survivors struggled to come to terms with what had just happened, they knew that they had to find a way to reverse the snap and bring back their loved ones. They would do whatever it took, no matter the cost, to restore the universe to its rightful state and ensure that no one had to suffer the same fate as those who were lost in the snap. Would Peter and Tony go to check on May, Ned, and MJ? It is possible that Peter and Tony would have gone to check on May, Ned, and MJ after the snap, as they were important people in Peter's life. Here's a possible description of what could have happened. Peter and Tony stood in silence, staring at the empty space where so many people had just vanished. As the shock began to wear off, Peter's thoughts turned to his loved ones back on Earth. "We have to go back to May, Ned, and MJ," he said, his voice strained with emotion. Tony nodded, understanding the urgency in Peter's tone. "I'll take you there," he said. They took off in a flash, rocketing through the stars towards Earth. As they landed in Queens, they could see that chaos had erupted on the streets. Buildings were on fire, cars were overturned, and people were running in every direction. Peter's heart sank as he realized that his worst fears had been realized. May, Ned, and MJ could be anywhere, and there was no guarantee that they had survived the snap. "We have to find them," he said, his voice shaking. We can't just leave them out there." Tony put a reassuring hand on Peter's shoulder. "We will," he said. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure they're safe." Together, they set off into the chaos of the post-snap world, searching for any sign of Peter's loved ones. It was a daunting task, but they knew that they couldn't rest until they had found them and made sure they were okay. What would Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order do after the snap? After the snap, Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order would likely have continued to pursue their own agendas, even as the universe reeled from the loss of half of all life. Here's a possible scenario of what could have happened. Hela surveyed the devastation wrought by the snap with a twisted smile on her face. "So much death," she murmured. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Thanos nodded, his eyes gleaming with a sense of satisfaction. "The universe needed balance," he said, "and now it has it." The Black Order stood nearby, their expressions inscrutable. They had been loyal to Thanos for years, but the sheer scale of the snap had left them feeling uneasy. "What do we do now?" Ebony Maw asked, Breaking the silence, Hela turned to him, a wicked grin spreading across her face. "We continue our conquest," she said. "With half of all life gone, there are countless worlds ripe for the taking." Proxima Midnight stepped forward, her spear at the ready. "And what of the Avengers?" she asked. "They will not rest until they have undone what you have done." Thanos' expression grew dark. "We will deal with them in time," he said. "But for now, we must focus on consolidating our power and expanding our influence across the universe." Hela chuckled. "Yes, let them come," she said. "We will be ready for them." With that, the group set off into the stars, their sights set on conquest and determination. The snap had only strengthened their resolve, and they were more determined than ever to achieve their goals, no matter the cost. Alright guys, just 4 more left. Would the remaining Avengers kill Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order? It is difficult to predict exactly what the remaining Avengers would do in this scenario, but given the magnitude of the threat posed by Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order, it is likely that they would attempt to defeat them by any means necessary. Here's a possible description of what could have happened. The remaining Avengers were stunned by the devastation wrought by this snap. They knew that they had to act fast to prevent further chaos and destruction, but they were also keenly aware of the fact that they were severely outnumbered and outmatched. Captain America turned to his team, his voice grave. "We have to take the fight to them," he said. "We can't let them continue to wreak havoc across the universe." The others nodded in agreement, their expressions determined. They knew that this was going to be the fight of their lives. As they prepared for battle, a plan began to take shape. They knew that they would have to work together, using all of their strengths and abilities to take down Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order. "Remember, this is for everyone we've lost," Black Widow said, her voice low and fierce. With that, they launched themselves into the fray, attacking their enemies with everything they had. It was a brutal and intense battle, with sparks flying in the air thick with the sounds of combat. But despite their best efforts, the Avengers were struggling to gain the upper hand. Hela's powers were formidable. Thanos' strength was legendary, and the Black Order was a force to be reckoned with. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Avengers were fighting a losing battle, but they refused to give up, pushing themselves to the limit in a desperate attempt to turn the tide. Finally, through the sheer force of will, they managed to gain the upper hand. Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order fell one by one, their powers no match for the combined might of the Avengers. As the dust settled, the Avengers stood victorious, but exhausted and battered. They looked around at the destruction wrought by the battle and knew that they had paid a heavy price. "Is it over?" Hawkeye asked. He said, his voice hoarse. Captain America nodded, his expression grim. "For now," he said, "but we have to remain vigilant. There will always be more threats out there." With that, they stood together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that they had each other to rely on. Would Peter, Tony, and Bruce work on a way to bring the Dusted back? It is highly likely that Peter, Tony, and Bruce would work on on finding a way to bring the Dusted back. Here's a possible scenario of what could have happened. As the Avengers regrouped after their victory against Hela, Thanos, and the Black Order, Tony, Peter, and Bruce retreated to a makeshift laboratory they had set up. They were determined to find a way to bring back the Dusted, no matter the cost. "We have to do something," Peter said, his voice shaky. "We can't just let them be gone forever." Tony nodded in agreement. "We'll figure it out, kid," he said, placing a hand on Peter's shoulder. Bruce began to work on a solution, poring over data and equations, while Tony and Peter helped where they could. It was slow going, but they were making progress. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure began to mount. The world was in chaos, and the Avengers knew that time was running out. "We need to find a breakthrough," Bruce said, his voice strained. Tony nodded, looking tired and determined. "We're not giving up," he said. "Not on my watch." Finally, after weeks of hard work, they had a breakthrough. They had found a way to reverse the effects of the snap and bring back the Dusted. They worked feverishly to put the plan into action, preparing for the moment when they could bring those back who had been lost. The day arrived, and they activated the machine, holding their breath as it began to hum and whir. As the Dusted began to reappear, the Avengers watched in awe and relief, their hearts filled with joy and gratitude. "We did it," Peter said, tears streaming down his face. Tony clapped him on the back, a rare smile spreading across his face. "We sure did," he said. Bruce looked on, his expression one of quiet and satisfaction. They had done the impossible and saved the universe from certain doom. As they stood there, watching as their loved ones returned to them, the Avengers knew that they would always be willing to go to any lengths to protect what they held dear. Would Peter go to May and Ned and tell MJ that he was Spider-Man when they came back? It's certainly possible that Peter would go to May and Ned and tell MJ that he was Spider-Man when they all returned. Here's a possible scenario. After the Avengers successfully brought back the Dusted, Peter rushed to May's apartment, eager to see his beloved aunt and best friend. When he arrived, he found May and Ned sitting on the couch, looking stunned and disoriented. "Aunt May!" Peter exclaimed, rushing to her side and enveloping her in a tight hug. May hugged him back fiercely, tears streaming down her face. "Peter, you're alive," she sobbed. Ned joined the embrace, his eyes red-rimmed with tears. "Dude, I can't believe it's really you," he said. After they all calmed down a bit, Peter took a deep breath and made a decision. He knew that he couldn't keep his secret from them any longer. "Guys, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice serious. "I'm Spider-Man." May and Ned looked at him in shock, their mouths hanging open. It took them a moment to process the information. "You're Spider-Man?" May repeated, her eyes widening. Ned looked at Peter with a newfound respect. "That's so cool, man," he said. Peter felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he told them the truth. It felt good to finally be able to share his burden with the people he loved. Later that day, Peter went to find MJ, eager to see her and tell her everything that had happened. When he found her, he took her and pulled her aside, away from the crowds of people who were still reeling from the aftermath of the snap. "Hey, MJ," he said, his voice soft. "There's something I need to tell you." MJ looked at him expectantly, her eyes searching his face. "I'm Spider-Man," Peter said, looking at her earnestly. MJ's eyes widened. She looked at him in disbelief. "You're Spider-Man?" she repeated, her voice incredulous. Peter nodded, feeling a rush of nervous excitement. "Yeah, I am. And I know it's a lot to take in, but I wanted you to know." MJ looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she leaned in and kissed him, her lips soft and warm against his. "I don't care if you're Spider-Man or not," she said, pulling back and smiling at him. "I just care about you." Peter grinned, feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted from his shoulders. He had his loved ones back, and he had MJ by his side. Life was good. Would Valkyrie become the new ruler of Asgard after Thor and Loki's deaths? It's certainly possible that Valkyrie would become the new ruler of Asgard after Thor and Loki's deaths. Here's a possible scenario. After the devastating loss of Thor and Loki, the remaining Asgardians were left in a state of shock and grief. They knew that they needed a new leader, someone who could guide them through the difficult times ahead. Valkyrie stepped forward, offering to take the mantle of ruler. She had always been a loyal ally to Thor and had proven herself to be a strong and capable warrior. The Asgardians were hesitant at first, unsure if they were ready to put their trust in a new leader, but Valkyrie's unwavering determination and her fierce dedication to her people won them over. In a solemn ceremony, Valkyrie was crowned the new ruler of Asgard. She stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out over the kingdom she now presided over. The sun was setting behind her, casting a warm, golden light over the city. "Today, we mourn the loss of our beloved king and his brother," Valkyrie said, her voice ringing out over the assembled crowd. But we must also look to the future. Asgard has been through many trials, but we have always emerged stronger on the other side. I vowed to do everything in my power to protect and guide our people through these dark times. The Asgardians cheered, their voices ringing out across the city. They knew they had a strong and capable leader in Valkyrie, someone who would do whatever it took to keep them safe and secure. As the sun set and the stars began to twinkle overhead, Valkyrie stood on the balcony, watching over her kingdom. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She was the new ruler of Asgard, and she was determined to lead her people to a brighter future. Alright guys, I don't know how to say this, but this was my last Marvel Monday. So I hope you guys enjoyed that Marvel Monday. That was the last one. I hope you enjoyed all of them. Thank you for the amazing support you all gave me during all my Marvel Mondays. And I hope you guys will continue to enjoy my future videos and my future Star Wars fanfics, my future Star Wars Sunday fanfics, because those will be continuing still. But right now we'll do my closing and say bye. Make sure to like, comment in the discussion tab, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!